Hi guys, welcome to Charity's Babu. See your number one channel. I am here and I'm gonna do a new video here. Today I want to answer a question that I was asked about some of the things that you should do or you should not do when you win your DV lottery and when you come and live here in the US. So that's what I'm gonna talk about. But before that, I want to thank you for watching my videos. I also want to thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel, and if you haven't subscribed, kindly consider subscribing and liking my videos, guys, and sharing. I normally tell you, when you like, it doesn't cost you anything to press the button and like. It doesn't, it's not so much effort. So I do appreciate those who like, and those who haven't liked, please consider liking my videos. It takes the video along. Now that's the only way that I can get appreciation from you guys. So today I want to talk about some things that you should know when you come and live here in the US, some things that you should do, some other things that will put you in a lot of trouble if you did them. You know, so many things are going on in the world right now that everything is changing. And I don't know if it's depression or what's going on, but there are so many things that are happening in the world that are not good. But when you win your DV lottery, it's going to be different, a little bit different. Because the first thing that you will do after you know that you have been selected is you are going to fill out your DS-260. So I want to start with there about the DS-260. And after you have been selected, they give you the instructions of how to fill out the DS-260. And there is one particular part that you really have to fill with. It's going to be about you and about your background. So, and another requirement when you're going for your interview is going to be your police clearance certificate or your certificate of good conduct. So those are the things that I want to start there, and at the same time I'm going to extend to when you come to live here, what things are you supposed to do and what are you not supposed to do. So they will ask you in your DS-260 if you have been in jail for something like drug trafficking, like children trafficking, like are you on drugs, do you take any drugs, all that, like anything that is associated with vices or bad things, you are supposed to fill out there. And of course, when you go for your police clearance form, they are not going in the CID investigate whatever office, they are not going to give you clearance if you are a criminal. So that's one thing. Now you have come to live in the US, and there's some things that you have to do, especially when you're a permanent resident, and even when you're a US citizen. There's some things that you're supposed to do. Some of them are common sense, and some of them you have to learn, because I know that the African culture sometimes can be very permissive, very permissive. And when I say that, is that you will find that people are married and the man or the woman decides that they are going to be beating the other spouse. Now when you come here in the US, you cannot lay your hand on anybody. You cannot lay your hand on your wife. You cannot lay your hand on your husband, and you cannot lay a hand on your kids. That's called abuse. And that's the first thing that you find, that you're coming in and you're used to beating up your wife, and then you continue doing that. And then you find that when you continue doing that, here the system is very like the system is just near you, because if someone makes a phone call and they call 911, the police will be there and you will be in trouble because you are not supposed to. That's the first thing that you should know. And I'm saying that because I come from Africa and I know that men have that habit. So you can't touch your wife. You can't. That's illegal. You can't do that here. So I'm trying to answer that question, because that person was like, what can make me like to be in trouble? So things change when you come here in the US, and so that's one thing that you cannot do. The other thing This one is interesting because you find that let me talk about Kenya or maybe the African. I know there are so many African countries whereby people are allowed to marry many wives. You have 5 wives, you have a side chick, you have a slave queen or whatever you have, and that's life because it's permitted depending on your likes. Now here you can only have 1 wife. You can only be legally married to 1 wife. Now if you decide to have side chicks, your wife has the right to divorce you. Or maybe if the woman decides to have other people out there, they have a right to divorce you. And here divorce doesn't last a long time, it's just a short time. And then you are done with that person. So that's another thing. So let's assume that you are used to not having maybe one spouse or one individual, and then when you come here, you will find people, and you start like messing around with people, and then maybe you start having children and all that. You know, there are some, and it's quite unfortunate because you find that sometimes you will have a child, and the man decides to abandon you. And maybe they will come back when your child is older, or maybe when they know that your child is successful or something like that. Now, when you have a child here, let's assume like you decide that you're going to be moving around and having kids and all that stuff. Let's assume that you have 3 kids outside, and then you have your wife. So you have your wife and you have some girlfriends, and they have kids. You will be put in something called child support. That means that every child that you bring into this world, you have to take care of that child from day 1 up to the time that child is going to be 18 years, and that is not negotiable. So that's upon you to decide on the life that you're going to live. And this one is it can be a conflict for someone who lives, especially in Kenya. I know it's allowed for people to have 2 wives. I've even watched videos of people who are having 2 wives, and some of them are living in the same house. I can't do that. Like, oh no, I can't. Oh my gosh, I'm not the sharing type, so I can't share. Like for me, no. So you find that you can't do that here. And there was a question that this person was asking me. They were like, I have 2 wives. So do I fill both of them? There is no slot for filling out even 2 wives when you're applying for your DB lottery. There's only for filling 1 spouse. And I kind of find it selfish because you are not going to find women with 4 husbands or 2 husbands or whatever. Maybe there's some special cases, but it's kind of rare. So that's crazy. So if you have 4 wives and you want to fill the DB lottery, now I don't know how you do that because that's complex. But when you are here and you have kids with other people, and maybe you have a wife, you have your own kids, you have to take care of those children. And to some extent, if you don't, you can be taken to court. And if you refuse, then you can be charged. So you can't do that. That's something that you cannot do. You have to take care of your kids, regardless of what. And here, you find that even if, let's assume you have kids and they are like 15 years old, or they are 14 and they decide that they are going to have kids, and maybe the boy is like 15 or 16 or whatever, they have to take care of that child. Because if you are capable of having a relationship with someone and you know that relationship have consequences, and a baby comes, and that baby needs to be taken care of. So that's one thing that you have to know, especially an African man. You have to know that, like, that's not negotiable. It's not like the way you find that you got married to someone and then you have 5 kids and then you decided to abandon that person and then you marry another one. You know, I watched this video and I was so sad because this guy had married this lady and they had 4 children. And I remember that they had twins. And then this man decided that, hey, to leave that lady and go and marry a young girl. And then someone happened to tip the wife that the man was getting married, and the wife showed up in church with those kids. And I really felt bad about that woman because those are your kids. And the funny thing is that after all that drama and everything, that pastor went ahead and married those two people, knowing that he was abandoning his wife and his children. You know, I really felt bad about it. I was like, really, that's wrong. Now you find that here, yes, you are allowed to divorce someone, you are allowed to separate or whatever, but you have to take care of those kids. And it becomes hard when there is a divorce because everybody has to chip in and take care of the kids. So the kids are moved. This weekend maybe they are in this house. The next weekend they are in another house. Like, it's just crazy. So when you come here and you are like, you have that habit, you can't do that because that is wrong. Now, the other thing that is like, it's very good to know is that there are some states that you have to drive. Like the state that I live in here in Kansas, you have to have your own car and you have to drive. So when you come in, it's good. I normally like think that it's good for you at least to know a little bit of driving when you're coming to the US, because you know, at least when you know how to like drive, it's gonna be easier on you. Because like me, I came without knowing driving, so I had to go to driving school. Because if you have really not driven a car, most people are not gonna give you their car to go and practice with it. And it's not that they don't want to do it, it is because of insurance. Because these cars are insured, you have to have insurance. Like that, you can't drive a car here in the US without insurance. Like, that's a must. So you have your driver's license and you have all that. So there is no way. I can't move for this person, but I can slow down a little bit so that they can be going. So so it's good for you to know how to drive a little bit, so that when you come here, you'll find that the driving is gonna be different, because we drive on the left side. Yeah, we drive on the left side. And so you learn that. So if you have a little bit of experience, like my husband, he didn't have a problem because he was already a driver. So he was able to drive, and he went and passed the driver's test, because you have to do a driver's test with someone from the where they issue the driver's license for you to get it, so that you can be allowed to drive. So there is something called a speed limit. And like right now, I'm driving in the highway, and this highway you're supposed to drive at 60. So let's assume that someone decides that they are not going to drive at 60, they are going to drive at 70. You find that if you're stopped by the police, number one, before even you're stopped by the policeman, that is not a safety thing. Because when you're driving, you should think about the driver who is in front of you, the driver who is behind you. You should think about so many dynamics. You should even think about yourself in that car. You know what I mean? So if you overspeed, either you will get into an accident. When you get into an accident, your insurance goes up. So let's assume like you are paying like $250 for your insurance every month, because you have to pay monthly. So what will happen is that if you cause the accident, regardless of what, they are going to increase your premium. So you will be paying more. So there you are at a loss. And if you are the one who caused the accident, or you are the one who was overspeeding, you find that you will get a ticket. Getting a ticket is like a fine, because you find that here when you are stopped by a policeman, normally what happens is that they give you a little piece of paper, and then you go, you can either decide to go to court because you're supposed to go to court, or you decide to pay that fine because it's a fine that you're paying. And I think you can even be close to paying to $200 and $250, which is not easy to come. So the first thing that you should think about when you're driving here is like follow the road rules, the speed limit. The other thing is seat belts. You know, when I was younger and I was in Kenya, there was this minister who was called Michuki, and he had changed the driving system. He had changed all the rules. All the cars had to have seat belts and all that. And I remember the matatu owners, especially the people for public transport, they were complaining, oh, I don't know what, that they should not wear safety belts and whatever. Now, if you do not wear a safety belt and you have an accident, you know, there was this one. I like to talk about examples that I have seen. I know that there was a guy that he was so young and he was a student, and he died but he didn't have a seat belt on. So when he had that accident, he was thrown out of the windshield, and it was bad. But when you have your seat belt, and maybe you know you can prevent an accident. You can, you know, if it's meant to happen, it's gonna happen. But you find that when you have your seat belt, the seat belt can save you, because like when you have your seat belt on and you hit an impact, of course your car is going to deflate. A balloon is going to deflate from your steering wheel, and that might help you from being injured so badly. So it's very, very important for you to follow the rules. Now for me, you know, I know that there are some people who don't buckle up. Now if I am giving anybody a lift, if I have to, everybody must buckle up. Like they have to put on their seatbelt. Even my 3-year-old knows. She tells me, "Mommy, let's go buckle up," because we must buckle up. You know, I used to. There was a time that I was giving these kids a ride. I had to go and get them from somewhere and take them to home. But then when they entered my car, they didn't buckle up. I was like, "Why aren't you buckling up?" They were like, "We don't buckle." I was like, "Then you have to get out. You don't buckle, you get out of my car," because that's a safety issue. So that's that. You know, when maybe you're coming from a place that people do not buckle up and all that, when you come here, you have to buckle up. Like that's a must. You have to do that. And the more you get tickets, the more sometimes the insurance can drop you, and it's gonna be very, very hard to get a new one. And when you get a new insurance, it's gonna be very high premiums. So you have to be very, very, very careful on the road. Like very, very, very careful. So that's another thing that you have to look at. The other thing is maybe drugs. You find that, and that's one thing that I know that is a vice, that something like weed, you know, weed, like you find like so many. I know like here there are some states that it's legal for people to have weed, marijuana, all that stuff, which is I don't know. For me, I think it's a bad thing, because I grew up knowing that it's a bad thing. But there are some people who like think that it's okay. So you find that let's assume you are taking drugs, or maybe you are selling drugs, or maybe you want to drive when you are under influence. You have gone to your friends. I told you here in the US, like beer is so cheap. Beer is very, very cheap. So maybe if you have like $10, you can go buy. There are some shots that you can even buy for $2. So it's very, very cheap. And you can find that there are some people who all they do is drink. I know you've watched videos of people who have come here and then they were taken back home, but all they do is their life is destroyed because all they do is drink. And I'm not saying drinking is bad, but myself personally, I don't drink for my own reasons, because I'm like, no. And it's okay whether you drink or not, but when you're drinking, you have to limit. You cannot drive when you are drunk, because you'll get something called a DUI, driving under influence. And when you get that, that one is trouble. Oh my gosh, that one is just trouble. So you don't want to go there, and you are an immigrant, guys, you know. And those are some of the things that that, you know, you just look at them, you're like, why did that person get a DUI? Like, you don't understand, because it's beyond. We are coming from a place whereby many resources, because I talk to people, guys. I talk to people in all over, you know. I receive so many messages all over Africa, all over wherever, and they're telling me it's so hard here. I want to fill out the green card, and then I can come to the US and see if my life can change. And then you find that someone, they have gotten that chance, but all they do is drink. You know, like, I'm like, really? That's why, you know, that there was this story about this lady who was, people were like, I think she had to go to rehab or something, and then she was living in a very deplorable condition, and she had been in the US for more than 20 years. Like, honestly, I didn't have pity for that lady. I did not. Because those are the people who come here and they don't want to listen. They just want to go with life, because here life can be good, guys. There's everything. But you have to make your choices. You either make good choices or bad choices. Because there is, oh my gosh, beer is cheap. You can go to every club, you can go buy beer, you can do whatever. But if you drive when you are under influence, you are going to be in trouble. So that's one thing that you have to know. So I've talked about kids, I've talked about child support, I've talked about drinking and driving, I've talked about overspeeding. All those things, you know. And then something else that I want to talk about. Let's assume, you know, and there were so many cases before I came in here, whereby you hear like there was a hit and run. I find that if you do that and you run away and you're caught, oh my gosh, you will be in so much trouble. You won't even know, you know, because here, the thing about here in the US is that it's very hard to hide. I like to watch a program called Forensic Files, and you find that those people do investigations and they find out about something that had happened 20 years ago. You know what I mean? So you can't hide. You can use here when you come here. You have to be, you know. I remember there was this guy who told us, since you have come here, and you know, I took it in the offensive, but now I look at it and see like that guy was like telling us the truth. He was like, you know, people are used to lying, like simple lies, stupid lies, all that. So when you come here, he said, when you come here, you have to speak the truth, which is very, 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 very true. I've lived here for 8 years now. I know you can't lie. Like, why are you lying? And for me, that's why, you know, I say it how it is. If it's bad, it's bad. If it's good, it's good. And if it's good, it's good. And I think that's the same way Francis is. And you find that when you tell people the truth, they don't like you a lot. But you have to be very truthful, very honest. When you go to work, do your job the way you're supposed to do it. When you go to work, you're supposed to clock in, do your work, be very respectable, you know. And if you go into professions, like when you're a nurse, or maybe when you become a doctor or something, there's some certain rules that you have to follow. Whereby, if you broke some of those rules, you would be in so much trouble. They will take your license and all that. Another thing that you have to know is that here, when you come here, people like there's something called private space, whereby like you are not supposed, you know, like when we go to church, and I'm going to give a good example. When you go to church in Africa, you find that people are just huddled in the same place, all of them. Now you find that here, if it's a family, you will find them sitting in the same place, but there's going to be a gap, and then there's another family that is sitting on the other part, because there's something called private space. So you cannot just go maybe and find two people sitting in a bench and you then go and sit there. No, you can't do that, because people like their private space. Or maybe you find someone, they are sitting, and you just go and sit there without asking. No, you can't do that. Even us nurses or doctors, when you're going when you're working with a patient, before you touch them, you ask them, can I, maybe let's assume you're taking a blood pressure, can I check your blood pressure? Where would you like me to do it? You don't just go and grab someone and do it. No, you don't do that. You know, I used to work with this girl, and oh my gosh, like, so people, you know, the thing is that when you work with someone from your country, the Americans, when they are complaining, they will come and complain to you about that person. So they were like, oh, she doesn't respect private space. She just comes and she grabs you or she hugs you. You can't do that. You have to ask. Even sometimes I've seen instances whereby we've gone to a funeral and someone is really crying and they're distressed, and then you find someone asking, can I hug you? They don't just go and hug you. No, can I? You have to ask permission first. Before you, before you touch someone, before you do all that stuff. It's important, guys, for you to know that when you're coming to live here in the US, it's very, very important. Be respectful, you know, and you will be able to, you're going to be able to survive, and you're going to be able not to be in trouble, because you don't want to be in trouble. And, having the green card is not like a must that you will get citizenship. I know someone who had a green card, and when they went to renew it, you can either renew a green card or you decide that you want to become a US citizen. But that person, when they went to renew, whatever they were doing, renewing or getting their citizenship, they were told to go back, because there's something that they had done that they didn't think that would come back to them. So you have to be very, very careful. So I hope some of these things, and I'm going to talk about more stuff that can put you in trouble, or some of the things that you should know when you come to live here in the US. So I hope that this video is going to be helpful. Continue subscribing to my YouTube channel, and continue liking my videos, and continue sharing. So I will leave it at there. Thank you, guys, and God bless you.